Good evening, everybody. This is David and Dawn, and our guest speaker, Heather Sunderland again. And I'm going to turn it over to Dawn. Dawn, do you have our disclaimer handy?
Heather has her own, so we're going to use that tonight.
All right.
And I just want to encourage everybody to please share this information and keep listening, because Heather is going to be working with us to really teach us information about detoxing and her point of view and what's helped her. And Heather, it's not just your point of view, but it actually worked for you the way you have been able to heal your body, right?
Yeah, nothing. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars chasing answers, and I'll share a little bit as we talk some of the things that I did that I'm sharing that didn't work. Everybody's different, but yeah.
I'm glad you pointed that out, Heather. Everybody is different, and what works for one person is probably going to work for someone else, but might not. And I know you've had a lot of experience with that. And as a functional health coach, you get to help a lot of people. And we're so happy to have you with us tonight.
Thank you, David. No, I'm excited to share. So should I go? Can I start?
Yeah, go ahead and get started. Thank you, Heather.
Okay, so my name's Heather Sunderland. I'm a functional health coach. My specialty is regenerative nutrition and detoxification. So because of my own journey, I've really learned a lot about detoxification. But tonight, we're going to specifically talk about what are binders, what do they do, when do we need to bind toxins, when don't we want to bind toxins, and what are some of the different options out there, prescription, over-the-counter, food type, whole food binders. And hopefully there'll be time at the end for some Q&A. So my disclaimer, this talk is for educational purposes. I don't know your whole history. You want to check with your practitioner if you're going to make choices about binding. And you just don't want to willy-nilly implement these suggestions here. So reach out to your practitioner if you have questions, or reach out to me. I'm happy to help you on the journey. I love coming alongside people and helping them get their health and their life back. So what are binders and when do we use them? Well, binders are used to bind toxins, to grab them and pull them out of the system effectively. And some of the times that people need binders, we've been talking about that most of the people in this group are dealing with their toxic bucket overflowing. And that can happen when people have Lyme disease and their body can't detox the biotoxins, the microbes, the waste products of Lyme. It can happen when people are in mold. It can happen from our exposure to pesticides, heavy metals, toxins in our food, in our air, in our water. So we're being bombarded today all around us. And a lot of times when people are sick, part of the reason that they're sick is because they are toxic. So binders can be very, very effective at helping getting rid of biofilm, helping the gut if you're having a lot of bloating, digestive issues. And when we bind, we bring down inflammation because toxins are inflammatory. So some of the benefits of binders, like I said, we bring down inflammation. Binders do typically bring down cholesterol. So anytime you lower your toxic bucket, that's going to happen. It helps to get the body more alkaline. When we are sick, we are acidic, and illness thrives in acidity. But the more the body moves to alkalinity, the more the body is able to thrive, and viruses and bacteria have a harder time thriving in that alkalinity. It can mitigate dealing with radiation, EMF, our cell phones by binding. And as I said, it can help with bloating and constipation and digestive issues. So there are some times that we don't want to use binders. Even whole food binders, we can use them when someone's living in mold in a toxic environment, but I will say it is Definitely harder if somebody is in an environment that they're being exposed to toxins. It can be much more uncomfortable binding. But the prescription binders on the market are not recommended if you're living in toxic mold. If someone is not, their bowels aren't moving, that is a huge method of our bodies detoxifying. So if your bowels aren't moving, you don't want to go on binders. And we want detox and drainage pathways to be open. And God, really designed our body to detox. But today, like I said, we're being exposed to so much that's why people are having issues. So our drainage pathways, we drain through our bowels, through bowel movements, through our kidneys, through urine, through our sweat and our skin, and through our breath. In terms of detox pathways. And then our liver, our gallbladder are involved, our lymphatic system are involved, and everybody's a little different where they might need support. And that's usually where a practitioner or a health coach like myself would come alongside you and help you figure that out. Oops, I feel like when I move my mouse, I feel like it's moving too fast, past too many slides. So I want to talk about two different prescription binders on the market. Some of you may have heard of cholestyramine, called CSM. It's approved for lowering cholesterol. It's also used in colitis to bind up the bowels. It has been, it has been studied. It's very effective at binding mycotoxins. It is by prescription only. There's a few different options on the market. That option, like most of the ones you'd buy from a pharmacy, they actually have toxic chemicals in it. It usually has sugar in it, or it has NutraSweet in it, artificial colors. So I recommend, if someone is going to use cholestyramine, have it ordered through a compounding pharmacy where it's minus all the toxic chemicals. The negatives are it's super constipating. It does bind nutrients and medications, making them ineffective, and you have to take it, numerous times during the day. So it can make it tricky. I've had some clients who have been on cholestyramine because their doctor prescribed it, and they just felt miserable on it because it was so constipating. So it's not one of my favorite binders to use because, like I said, it does deplete the body if you're on it, for a while. The second prescription binder is Welchol, and it's often typically used in mold. Welchol is taken with food. It's a pill, where the cholestyramine is a powder that you mix with water. It's a quarter as effective as the cholestyramine. So for someone who can't tolerate cholestyramine, doctors sometimes will prescribe the Welchol for mold toxicity. Same kind of side effects. It does bind nutrients and medications. It is constipating and it needs to be taken away from food, but it's typically better tolerated than the cholestyramine. And if you have questions, you might want to write them down at the end. Hopefully we'll have time to answer some. I was never on either of those two for my mold toxicity. Some over-the-counter binders that people can get, activated charcoal, a lot of people will take. Activated charcoal binds to everything. It's often used in food poisoning, or if you eat something and you feel sick, people will use it. It can be taken on an empty stomach. It is a broad spectrum binder and it's purchased over the counter, but it does bind to nutrients and medication. So I'm not a fan of the activated charcoal for long periods of time. When I'm determining what someone needs, I like to do muscle testing. And so if they muscle test for it, well then, and it's muscle testing as a priority, then I feel pretty good. I haven't really had anybody muscle test for cholestyramine or Welchol as a priority, sometimes as a backup. Same thing with charcoal, because they are depleting and there are a lot of options that are much better. And keep in mind, we are not covering every option out there on the market, but most of the products on the market can be a combination of some of these over-the-counter products that we're going to go over. Bentonite clay, I don't know if anybody's ever used it on their skin or taken a bath with bentonite clay. Bentonite clay will pull out heavy metals. And microbes are like the byproducts when you have a bacteria, the waste product of a bacteria or a virus or mycotoxin. So you can actually take a bath with it and it can pull things out and you can ingest it, but you add it to water. It's much stronger than charcoal. But you have to drink it with plenty of water. And again, it does bind nutrients. Now, this is one that I was put on when I was diagnosed with being toxic. And I was on charcoal. I was on like 3 different binders: bentonite clay, charcoal, and okra pepsin. Okra is a natural binder, so I was on okra pepsin. But nothing shifted after 5 months of being on binders. Nothing improved in my health whatsoever, other than I had symptoms of detox. But nobody worked with me on making sure my lymph was moving, my kidneys were supported, my bowels were supported, like nothing. None of that was done with my very expensive trained practitioners who worked detoxing people who had mold and Lyme. Fibers bind. So there's a whole bunch of different fibers that bind. Oats, wheat bran, alfalfa, flax, barley, chia. There are others. Modified citrus pectin, you can actually buy in a capsule. They're very, very gentle when we're using food to bind, and they bind biotoxins. They're the waste product from a bacteria or a virus. And mycotoxins is the waste from mold. Mold doesn't make us sick. It's the mycotoxins it gives off that make us ill. And very anti-inflammatory. So it nourishes and it helps move the bowels and lower cholesterol. So like that picture, that shake, that's a shake I use with clients that has some of these things. The alfalfa depends on the shake people are on, but it has these natural fibers in it, and they're nourishing the body, getting it alkaline as they're detoxing. So I personally prefer to use food to bind. And David at the end is going to talk about Immunical, because I love Immunical because it supports the body. It's a food that's supporting the body's production of glutathione, and he's more the expert on it than I am at this point in time. But I love using things that are natural versus something that's a prescription that's going to deplete the body. Chlorella, some of you may have heard of. You can buy it as a powder. You can buy it in a capsule. It is known for binding to heavy metals. It does bind to other toxins as well. It's a very rich source of chlorophyll. And when you eat your green vegetables, you're getting chlorophyll, but you'd have to eat like 4.5 cups of iceberg lettuce to get 1 gram of chlorella in there. And yeah, it's just very nutrient dense. And it does help protect the body from radiation. And a lot of the shakes I use with people have chlorella already in it. So I've never taken chlorella by itself, but it's in a lot of the things that I use for myself. Some of you may have heard of humic acid and fulvic acid. They are 2 different things, but they are both from decomposed plant matter, and they are minerals. They're very rich in minerals, so they remineralize the body when you take them. They're well known to remove the pesticide glyphosate from the body, but they also remove heavy metals like lead and cadmium and other toxins from the body. It's a great binder of the waste products from bacteria and viruses, and it doesn't like compete for nutrients at all. So it's very remineralizing while it's grabbing these toxins. Some of you may have heard of zeolite. There's actually over 240 different zeolites out there. But a zeolite is basically a complex mineral that's been formed from the contact of lava and water. It takes a very long time for zeolite to form, but the specific zeolite that most people buy is this one called clinoptilite. I can't even pronounce it properly. Forgive me for that, but it creates a crystalline honeycomb kind of structure where things get encapsulated in that structure and then pulled out through the bowels. Zeolite is most known for pulling out heavy metals and pulling out volatile organic compounds from the body. When you buy it, it really should be micronized. The brand there, I tend to use a lot with clients. I've had clients do very well. There are other brands on the market. They're all a little different. You got to do your research. But if somebody has a high heavy metal load, this is a great way to bring down the heavy metal load without causing symptoms of detox. Like a traditional heavy metal detox is very uncomfortable, but zeolites do not cause detox symptoms because they form that cage and they attract that negatively charged toxin and pull it out of the body. So you don't have those detox symptoms that you get from typical detox. So if somebody knows they have a high heavy metal load, this is very easy to add into what someone's doing. Their liquids, they have no flavor whatsoever. And they don't have to be, taken away from food or anything like that. Now, I'm a practitioner for Cell Core. They are a brand of products that are on the market that are whole food binders. They have products that were sort of developed specifically for parasites, for Lyme, and for mold. The owner's wife had Lyme disease. And so they have like a whole system to open up drainage and detox pathways. What I do with clients is I muscle test, what they need and when they need it. Cell Core products, like 100% whole food. They're not organic, just very cleanly sourced, been very carefully studied. They do not bind nutrients. They prevent the toxins from recirculating, but they're very powerful. So a lot of my clients who are as sick as I was, they can't start on Cell Core. It's just too strong. It took me 16 months to be able to incorporate Cell Core into what I was doing, using food like to detox and to bind and to nourish. So everybody's different. And the people rave about Cell Core, but my clients, a lot of them can't tolerate the products in the beginning until we get those pathways a little bit more open and get them sort of a foundation of health being nourished. So I'm just going to go over 4 of the Cell Core binders. Usually you take these in a very specific order. You start with biotoxin binder. You can see the label here. It's humic acid, broccoli sprout, yucca, and fulvic acid and citric acid. This is not citric acid derived from mold. But biotoxin binder will bind ammonia and byproducts from bugs, bacteria, viruses, parasites. It doesn't bind nutrients. It crosses the blood-brain barrier. And anytime we're binding, we're decreasing inflammation. But this particular binder activates NRF2, which protects the cells from toxic onslaught. Now, most people will take like 2 to 4 capsules a day. Like that's the typical. But if someone is really deeply detoxing and has a high toxic burden, they might be taking 6, 10 pills, 3 times a day. I was actually on 120 a day, but like it wasn't like something I could overdose on. It doesn't cause, any damage or issue there. The second binder that Cell Core had is called VRAD Chem, and sort of just like the name, it's dealing with radiation and chemicals and microbial toxins. And if you look at the nutrients, it's a lot of whole food nutrients: artichoke leaf, acacia fruit, mulberry fruit. My screen is actually covering some of it: astaxanthin, pomegranate seed. Again, I love these: broccoli sprout, humic acid, olive leaf. I love that it's whole food. It doesn't bind to nutrients. It decreases inflammation. It supports your immune system, and it supports your body's ability to deal with environmental toxins like chemicals and radiation. But again, typically people start on biotoxin binder, and when their body's ready, it'll tell you, I went from biotoxin binder to 120 biotoxin binder to 120 of the VRAD binder for months, when my body was just sort of dumping a lot of chemical drugs that I had been on. Now, when people are on really high doses of binder, sometimes it's easier to do carboxy, which is a black powder. It's not in a capsule like the other binders are. It's high dose humic and fulvic acid. It's very, very strong binder. And you add a scoop to water. But when you do that, the water is black. And I quickly learned, if I didn't look in the mirror, like my teeth were black. and my lips were black and I had black on my hand. It was just a mess. So I started buying gelatin capsules and putting them into the gel, like putting the powder in the gelatin capsules with a little tiny scoop, so that I don't have to worry about my teeth being black. But it's very typical for someone to be on like 2 scoops a day. I'm on 12 scoops a day right now. You know, everybody's different. It hasn't made me constipated. Some people in the beginning, any kind of binder will slow things up a little until you get used to it. But it's always used after biotoxin binder and the VRAD chemical, and my body just seemed to follow suit with that. And they have one other binder. It's called HMET, so it's a heavy metal and environmental toxin binder. So you can see it has humic acid, fulvic acid, which we've talked about. It has broccoli sprout extract, and then it has a zeolite in it as well. My body's never wanted this one. My husband has been on it, but it does bind to heavy metals, doesn't bind nutrients, supports cellular repair. So I really like these binders. They can only be bought through a practitioner who's like a certified Cell Core practitioner, and they have a lot of rules and regulations to become a Cell Core practitioner, and I am one. And then there are people online who are Cell Core practitioners that you can order through. So I wanted to just share a little bit. So like I said, I use a lot of superfoods to nourish and bind people's bodies. And we talked about fulvic and humic acid. So I use this gut rehab, which has fulvic and humic acid, the biomedic, to bind toxins in people's gut and in their body. And it has a lactose spore, and actually probiotics actually can bind toxins in the gut. So this binds mold out of the gut. I use our shakes, which are organic, certified organic, and grown in regenerative soils. And I'm really using food to nourish and bind toxins and help open up people's detox pathways, because all these nutrients, the broccoli sprouts and whole food, they're going to support your glutathione production, your liver. And a lot of people, when they're sick, they're not digesting well, they're not well nourished. So this sort of does numerous things, laying that foundation of nourishment while working on the detox pathways, and gently detoxing. The aminos, even though they don't bind, the aminos go from your mouth to your lymphatic system. So the lymph is where all the toxins are, and it starts to push things through the lymph before it goes to the muscle. The cherry juice doesn't bind toxins, but it is very anti-inflammatory. And when people are detoxing, it can bring down pain. And it also supports the kidneys opening up and filtering acidic waste. Our kidneys are always filtering toxins, but they're not always filtering acidic waste and acidic ash. So this is a protocol that I customize for people based on their health that I just wanted to share. And if you want to know more, reach out to me. Wait, I guess that's it. I kept thinking I had one more slide in there. And then I'm going to let you talk about Immunical and how it supports binding and detoxification.
Thank you, Heather. That was super informative. I wanted to go back a little bit, and folks that are watching this can roll back your slides. I saw a message from one of our listeners that she was prescribed the CSM and noticed that there was aspartame in the CSM. Have you seen that that's the case? You said you've seen that that there are toxins in some of the
Yes,
prescription binders.
Yeah, CSM, my mother's on it, and I looked at it, and that's the chemical I don't like that's in it. They have food coloring and aspartame. So that's a neurotoxin to the brain. So when somebody's already toxic, if they're going to be on CSM, number one, you don't want to be on mold. It's totally contraindicated to be in mold and on CSM. And you really need your pathways supported before you go on something that's such a strong binder like CSM. But you want to get it at a compounding pharmacy. So it's just the cholestyramine with none of the additives to make it taste good. You can add it,
Uh,
they're adding it to make it taste good because you take it, it's a powder and you take it in liquid. And it's cheaper to get it through your insurance than not going through a compounding pharmacy.
I see. And the aspartame is a chemical sweetener. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
NutraSweet, yeah.
and
I'm embarrassed to mention this, but by the way, I just got up and took my aminos hearing that. I was like, okay, I got to get my next round of aminos in. So I got up and took those with my other supplement. I just want to say that you can ask David, I used to eat equal pretty much because everybody was saying, don't eat sugar, don't have sugar. So I thought, okay, what's left? And this
she was
was what,
diabetic.
20,
So yeah, this was
yes,
20 years
25
ago.
years ago. Yeah. And
And
so I would put equal in my iced tea, and I drank a lot of iced tea and a lot of coffee, and I liked it sweet, and I would just pour it in, and oh my goodness.
You're not alone though, Dawn. My mom was a type 1 diabetic, so we always had artificial sweetener our whole life. And I remember I was a dietitian learning about NutraSweet, and we were taught it was okay and approved by the American Dietetic Association.
Yes.
And I did all this research saying it wasn't okay. And at the time, all the research that saying it wasn't okay was considered quackery. But that research is still there and has grown that it is a neurotoxin to the brain.
yeah, and that research has gone pretty much mainstream with the general researchers. So you can go on PubMed.gov, one of our favorite resources, and you can look that up and see the articles, the hundreds of articles that show that stuff like aspartame is a neurotoxin. The other thing you had was chlorella. That Dawn has been on straight chlorella. I actually got it in a liquid form, and boy, that stuff is strong. It would turn her teeth green.
I haven't taken chlorella other than in a shake already that has chlorella in it, but it is a very powerful heavy metal binder, and it is supposed to be taken like if you're taking it by itself on an empty stomach. But it is a beautiful shade of green.
Yeah, I love the color. I like that it's in those whole food products that you recommend. Another one was zeolite. And I wanted to point out something on that. You mentioned the charge, positive versus negative charge. Most of the toxins that you have floating around in your system are a negative charge. They have too many electrons. Those are attracted to the zeolite. And like she said, if it's micronized and it's processed properly and it's clean, which is why we use the brand that we use. It's on our website. It attracts those toxins and it traps them in that cage structure, and protects, like she said, it protects your system from those toxins once they're inside that structure. So that's one I really like. And the broccoli sprouts, a lot of the stuff you had there has broccoli sprouts, and you mentioned it's an NRF2 activator. It turns out broccoli has a compound in it called sulforaphane, and currently that is the most powerful NRF2 activator available. And this company here that's on the screen, Immunotech, their booster product uses that same broccoli seed extract, the sulforaphane, as an NRF2 booster. So I really love that. The last item I noticed, you were talking about the probiotics, and I've done some research on probiotics, and
I disagree with that.
you disagree with it?
You've done a lot of research.
Some, a lot. It's anyway, probiotics are, that's the gut microbes. And Heather, you mentioned that they can bind to some of the toxins. I've actually come across research where those gut microbes are able to break down some of the toxins into non-toxic substances so that they don't, even if they do get absorbed in your gut, they don't hurt you any longer. And that goes along with some other research that's been done as of late on microbes that actually eat oil and other environmental toxins. So some of these big remediation sites where they've had a lot of toxic spills, the recent train wrecks and stuff, they'll actually take a mixture of microbes out there and pour them out on parts of the spills, and those microbes will eat the toxins and turn them into something that is no longer a environmental toxin. It makes their cleanup a lot easier. But that's what your gut microbes do for you on the inside.
Right.
So science is kind of catching up to what nature did to our own insides. So that's pretty cool. And then you mentioned the glutathione. Immunocal, if you look on the side of the box, it says glutathione precursor. This is not glutathione. It's the components that make glutathione. And that's very important because I ran into a scientist years ago who at the time was one of the premier researchers on glutathione. And his research showed that the molecule glutathione is too big to get inside your cell. It's not allowed to go in. He discovered enzymes in the cell wall, in the cytoplasm inside the cell, that take the amino acids that glutathione is made up of and assemble them like a set of Lego building blocks into the finished molecule glutathione. That's the only way we can get them into our cells. Now, the scientists that created this product, I should say, discovered this product. They didn't create it. It's a natural substance, a natural food, literally. Their contribution was in researching what all it can do for our bodies, including detoxification. One of the company's major scientists, Dr. Jimmy Gutman, says that other than water, glutathione is the most important detoxification substance in your body. You have to have it. Even with water, you can have all the water in the world in your body. If you don't have glutathione, you cannot detox. So it's super, super important. Of course, without enough water, you're not moving stuff. Just like Heather said, you have to be hydrated in order to move the toxins out of your system. But if you don't bind them, they may reabsorb back into your system and just make you sicker again. So products like she was showing and like this one that bind to the toxins and make them inert, carry them out through your colon and your kidneys, are very important because we don't want to reintroduce those toxins back into our system.
So I think that we should open it up for questions if anybody has questions for Heather or David.
Can I share
you
one? Can I share one
Uh-huh.
thing? I don't know, I don't remember the slide showing up. But just some things to think about, like not depending on why you're sick and what's going on in your body. Like I said, I use food to bind. I don't know why I can't find the video spot when I click on my screen. I know it's there, but it's not showing up. Here, I'll stop the share since you guys saw. There we go.
There we go.
But you know, depending on what's wrong with you and how sick you are, not everybody needs a binder right away. You know, you can use food to bind initially and eat to detox. But if you're having a lot of symptoms, a lot of pain, a lot of inflammation, bringing in a binder can be very helpful to grab stuff, move it out, and bring down that inflammation and pain. So everybody's sort of different. I was doing whole food the first 12 months of my journey. The end of my journey, I've needed more binders than ever. I'm almost 33 months out, and I did 6 months of about 120 binders a day. For whatever reason, that's what I needed. But everyone's different, what they need, what combination, and it's really looking at the whole picture, the person's health, what their goals are, what their issues, do they have a heavy metal load, parasite load, it's, you know, gadolinium, whatever it is. And it's going to be different, the binders you may be on at different seasons of the healing journey. So I just wanted to share that. But usually if you're having a lot of pain that's not getting better when you take an Epsom salt bath or a sauna, that can be a time to bring in a binder. If you're having a lot of digestive issues, sometimes when I have die-off of parasites around the full moon, I need to bring in a very specific binder that's for the gut that my body loves that wasn't even listed on there. This was not an exhausted list of binders. There are
Yeah, I understand.
yeah, but it covers the major types of binders and the ingredients you'll find in the binders that are out there.
Now, one of the reasons I really like the ImmunoCal as not only a binder but a food is that glutathione is also your body's most powerful natural anti-inflammatory, and it's fuel for your immune system. So it does so much with a single product. And I really love that about it. It's not a silver bullet. There aren't any. When your body needs nutritional support, it needs vitamins and minerals, you need something in addition to the binders. When your body doesn't want a binder, you need something different. There's a lot of moving parts to healing our bodies and getting rid of the toxin that just fill our lives these days.
And I really feel like another important part with all these tools is someone like Heather, who has the experience to help us, because the more toxic you are, the more you need someone like Heather to help get you guidance. If you aren't overly toxic, you probably don't need as much help, but it's always good to go to somebody like Heather who has the experience. And I hate the fact that she had all these illnesses, all these labels, but I'm so happy that she's here to help us, because she's like the golden child, right? You know, she's still healing, right, Heather? But you're feeling much better, and you're proving that we can heal even when we're in our 50s.
Yeah, I'm almost 60. Yeah, I mean, I'm still healing, but I would say, I mean, I've detoxed. Now it's just my viral and bacterial load is coming down, and I really think I've only got a little bit more time before it's all behind me, but there's just a lot of rebuilding when I was sick 27 years. So there's a lot of rebuilding and repair work that also goes on in the body. And I never would have anticipated I could reverse like 20 labels of names of illnesses in 23 months. But my body is still doing work to continue to repair and rebuild after all those years of sickness and all the drugs that I was on. But I'm functional, like I'm walking and hiking and mopping and cleaning and exercising. But is everything where I want it to be? Not yet. Not yet.
But we'll get there. And Dawn,
Yeah.
there is one thing I disagree slightly with you. Even when we're not so sick, we need somebody to consult with like Heather, because in the beginning, before we knew what we were up against, I use the analogy of the shotgun effect. We were kind of like shooting shotguns in the dark, hoping to hit a target. We tried everything under the sun, not even knowing what we were shooting at. And sometimes we did more harm than good. So even if you're not super sick, even if you're just a little bit toxic, consulting with somebody like Heather is really a good thing to give you direction.
Yeah.
So you're not just shooting in the dark and hoping that you hit something.
Yes, yes, I totally agree.
We all
So we want to open it up so anybody can ask questions. Ask her a question. She is here for us to help us. So someone unmute and ask her a question.
Come on, I know there's questions out there.
Has anybody been on any of these binders and had any negative side effects?
I was the one that was on was prescribed that chlormastamine. What is that called?
Well, CSM is the easy way, cholestyramine.
And I was like, oh yay, I'm gonna get help. And then I looked at the ingredients and I saw the aspartame and I'm like, oh no, 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 no. So I have had to be careful trying the charcoal, because you can definitely stop yourself up on that. And I've started more gently with the chia seeds. That's been a real good starter for me.
Yeah, food to bind is so much safer than charcoal, bentonite clay, cholestyramine, or Welcol. I mean,
Right.
Immunical is food. The superfoods I use, the shakes are food, and people can start to detox and support pathways through diet and then doing things through diet to bind. Just if people are really toxic, they usually need some more support somewhere.
I'm just so grateful to be able to have the foods, because I know through just my life journey, having the foods has given me the biggest help up in my journey. So to hear you come and say and share all this stuff just gives me more hope, because I've not done very well with the other stuff they've given me. I just can't seem to pull
No,
myself
it's
to do.
very common, Sherry. The people who are really sick don't tolerate the stronger prescription binders or the over-the-counter binders that people take, even activated charcoal. A lot of people who I know are sick, they'll be like, well, I take activated charcoal, but we're not, it has to be the binder that your body wants. And that's sort of what I love about muscle testing. It has to be the body your body wants and at the dose your body wants. So, I mean, I still have practitioners who help me. I have a lot of knowledge, but it was my doctor when I was struggling with detox who said, Heather, you can up your biotoxin binder muscle test if you're dumping toxins and you need to mop them up, because I was taking like 8 a day and it wasn't touching it. And I muscle tested. I started at like 70 and then 90 and then 120. And she said, it's fine. If that's what you need, that's what you need. But so if people aren't on enough, it's not going to be as effective either. And they're going to be more uncomfortable in the process. So, but it's different. I didn't need those kind of binders for a very long time on the journey.
It's just so encouraging having you with us and as a support. I appreciate everything you bring.
Oh, thanks, Sherry.
Thank you. Thank you.
I
And I
do too,
appreciate the
Heather.
projects, or the products, Immunotech and which is the one you have?
Period.
Purium. Oh my gosh, my body like, yummy.
And I think having you on here, Heather, is such a fabulous idea. And I really would like to discuss other recommendations that you have to help people, because you were saying, I said I can't do sauna and I can't do Epsom salts bath. And right away you came up with, you need to get lymphatic massage. So, I mean, these things, it's not just what you put in your body, it's mechanical, moving it out of your body, getting a lymph massage, doing a bath or a sauna, whatever your body sees as a way to release it, right?
Yeah, I mean, everybody who's sick, their lymphatic system is congested, and that's the regenerative approach, which is not my training, but that's what got me well, is the regenerative approach to healing, is focused on the lymph system, toxicity and acidity in the body. And so when I went to my doctor, nobody was focused on the lymphatic system or supporting the lymph system with herbs or, modalities that support moving the lymph. But you very quickly learn when you're sick, that's very important, even if you don't understand that the lymph system is the sewer system of the body and there's no pump on it. So if you're sick and you're in pain and you're not moving, then things are even more backed up and congested. So everybody's different, what their body prefers: lymph massage, dry brushing, Epsom salt bath, sauna. I'm still doing Epsom salt baths because of die-off. It helps pull out the waste products from bacteria that's dying in my body. And I do 8 cups a day. And I wish I had stock in Epsom salts or something. I get like 100 pounds delivered through Walmart or whatever to the door. And it's been that way for, the whole journey. But those modalities help you to feel more comfortable if you're having discomfort and pain. So it's nice to have some tools at home. So yeah, there could be a talk on the organs of detoxification and the drainage pathways, or a talk just on lymph, or, my head can always come up with things to talk about. But a lot of times people do need some help, not always, but personalizing it for them and their issues and fine tuning it. And I'm a little nutty about the muscle testing, but it's been super helpful on my journey. And I had a lot of practitioners who did it on me. And because my clients are so ill, it really, for me, takes the guesswork out. If they're having symptoms and I can confirm what I'm thinking in my head with muscle testing, sometimes I can confirm it with a test, but a lot of people have spent a lot of money. So if I can confirm their liver needs support and specifically what herbs their body wants, that just cuts down on the waste of spending money that's not needed. And it's just super helpful,
That's so important, because when you get as toxic as we are, you're not working, you can't work, and oftentimes you get left. People leave you when you're ill. Unfortunately, it's a fact. And so we want to be able to support our friends and family. It's so important. And I almost feel like we could just do a call just on the importance of healing, what we need to do, and supporting others. I feel like it's so important because so many people get left behind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen our website with the Veda project. That's really what we came up with, the Veda project. It's leave no victim behind, because there are people out there, they're alone and they need help, they need support. So anybody listening that would wish to help in our goals to help families that are toxic or individuals, we would appreciate you reaching out to David or myself.
Yeah. Sally, you unmuted. Did you have something to say?
I'm sorry, I was listening. So one of the issues that I have is I have a lot of histamine intolerance. And Heather's been really good working with me with that. And I know that I just had a great conversation with you two today. There's so many layers of things that I'm working through. I also, one of the other things I have is just my nervous system has been sort of injured. And how my detox started was charcoal and Sporanox is what my integrative doctor put me on, and my body went berserk. I started developing histamine intolerance issues, and then I had a neck injury, and then I had gadolinium, and there's just so many issues that I often lose where to go. I mean, I have an ileostomy, I have a malfunctioning nervous system, I have levels of inflammation, I have histamine issues. And Heather's been great. I don't even remember what my question was, to be honest with you. Oh, maybe I just need to vent. My question was how does all of this help? And is it common for people who are this toxic? I probably know my own answer. To develop mast cell type issues. I mean, like I've even started reacting to the metal in my body from my old fusion. I now show that I have a nickel allergy and a titanium allergy from an 18-year-old neck fusion. And I just don't even know how to get around any of this.
It is
Well,
toxicity. I mean, Sally, I mean, it's toxicity that makes, I mean, it damages our gut, it causes more mast cell. It looks different in each person.
Yeah.
How it shows up. So that's the part that's hard, is I was super toxic. I didn't have mast cell or histamine. A lot of my clients do. But as the gut heals, as toxicity comes down, as we close those tight junctures in the gut, that stuff over time, and it's different for everybody. An organ like the gut, the liver, it can take a while to heal. We can have layers of healing, when we're healing away. I've spent 10 months healing my nervous system. I spent over a year here, my liver just rebuilding and repairing. But cells are always turning over, and things can regenerate and repair, but they can't regenerate and repair if we're not getting the nutrients the body needs from plants and amino acids to rebuild. So that's why I like the protocol that I use with clients, even though it can be very individualized. You can do something wonderful like Immunical, but if you're going to do what I did, my nervous system went through serious nervous system repair from all the years of undiagnosed Lyme and a high load of parasites, and my myelin sheath on the nerves had to repair, and it was very painful. But you don't get to that place unless you have high dose of plant-based nutrients and aminos. And then I had to sort of shift how I did my eating just to deal with the nervous system. Those 10 months that may. So you're going to have different seasons and different layers of things that are healing, and everybody's body's sort of different where it's ready to start. But you're not even 3 months out.
I know.
I know, and I would give yourself 3 months to just see where you're at. But it's hard when you're healing and we're that sick, and we've been sick for a long time, because there's so many symptoms in the healing process, symptoms of being sick, and then symptoms that we think, oh, this is a symptom, I'm in pain, my legs are heavy and swollen, my Lyme must be active, or it must be, and we label it. And a lot of times when I'm working with clients, I'm muscle testing, I'm going, it's not Lyme, it's not what you think it is, your body's detoxing, your lymph is congested, or they label what it is and they're wrong. So I really caution people not to label what it is, but to seek, if you go to your doctor and you say, I have a rash, I have clients who go to the doctor and they're in mold and they have a rash and they put them on fluconazole to kill. I'm like, well, if the rash is you detoxing, then we just want to support your body detoxing and help
Right.
it quicker. We don't want to, and so it also depends on the practitioner you're working with. If you're
Right.
complaining enough, they're going to hand you a drug that's going to add to the toxic burden and may make things worse, because if you're already toxic and your pathways aren't open and then you start killing a parasite or mold, then my clients come back to me going, my doctor put me on, the antifungal and now I feel awful. And I'm like, well, of course you feel awful. Like you're killing something in your body. Anytime you kill something, lyme, fungus, bacteria, you're going to feel worse because they're holding on to, chemicals, and it creates inflammation when you kill. So, it's just, you have to have practitioners and a team of people. I wish I could say I healed myself. I didn't. God directed me continually to my practitioner didn't help me with the detox. But at the end, she's been huge on the organs that are repairing. When my brain is like, I know I need something else, but I don't know what I'm missing. And she'll give me a list of ideas and she'll say, Heather, muscle test what your body needs. And then I tell her and she's like, okay. And if I need her to order it, or where to get it, she'll tell me. But we need other people on our team, especially the sicker we are. I wish I could do it all. I can do a lot for people, but we still normally need some sort of physician at some point.
Yeah.
Other modalities.
In all of this, one of the many things that I really like about ImmunoCal is that glutathione is the support system for everything. Your cells cannot multiply without glutathione. Your immune system cannot function without ImmunoCal, without glutathione. All those antioxidants that are so rich in the products Heather was showing, they don't work without glutathione. It's the ultimate support for everything else we do. And you told me earlier you had a lot of kidney problems. I think you said stage 3 kidney damage.
Yeah.
Immunotech does have a ImmunoCal Platinum. There's a formula added to that called CMP, which is cytokine modulating proteins. That quells cytokine storms, which is kind of what you're experiencing with all this excess histamine.
Yes.
The caveat is that platinum, when you have such damaged kidneys, platinum can raise your creatine levels in your blood to a point where it might become toxic in and of itself. So we want to avoid that. So we want to support your systems until your kidneys have repaired enough that you're not at a point where you might get excess creatine in your blood.
Right.
And then we can try something like that if you still have those excess histamine issues. Sherry had something that she wanted to share. Are you still there with us, Sherry?
Yeah, I just have to get it unmuted. I was gonna share in regards to the metal in your body.
Yeah.
So I have metal in my body, which was shocking after a surgery to wake up to metal in my body when I've done everything not to have metal in my body. And my body was having a hard time with it. And my chiropractor, I believe, used a cold laser and had me bring in it's a titanium clamps that they put in my stomach. And so she had me bring a piece of titanium in, and she used I believe it was the cold laser to help my body. She took the piece of titanium and put it where the clamp is in my stomach and somehow cold lasered it and made it so that my body would accept it.
Huh, that's interesting.
That is
Mhm.
very interesting.
That's,
It
yeah.
really is.
Um,
And so how long ago was that, Sherry?
That was that was probably 10 years ago.
Wow.
Cold
And
laser-
you noticed a big difference since that was done, huh?
Yeah, I mean, because my body just didn't like it. It's like, get it out, get it out, get it out. And obviously they weren't taking it out.
Cold laser is super. I've had a lot of cold laser, and there's lots of different treatments that can be used for, but it's super anti-inflammatory.
Mhm.
Plantar fasciitis, when people have chronic pain. I haven't heard of it being used for that, Sherry, but
Yeah.
sort of makes sense.
Mhm.
You know, even if the toxins from the metal are causing an inflammatory response, the cold laser can calm that down. I mean, cold laser can even be used in the brain for depression.
Yes. Mhm.
I had a lot of cold laser of the brain, not for depression, but to get my brain like backfiring for sleep, because I had come off Valium and didn't sleep for 4 years much. You know, so it has a lot. Cold laser, there's just so many cool tools out there, but everybody's sort of different, you know, what tools their body is going to need in the process of bringing their body back into balance.
I
And that,
too had cold laser in with the brain, and I couldn't walk in straight at all, and my balance was everywhere, and everything was and then the guy did a cold laser treatment on my brain, and it was about 2 minutes of lasering my brain, and I was a completely different person.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. He said, we
Wow.
should have videoed that. And I'm like, darn
Yeah.
it, right?
and you know,
Wow.
that's kind of the theme to this, our detox session tonight, is there's so many things out there, and not everybody needs the same thing, but there's a lot of things that work. So, you know, we're getting a little over time, but, you know, for those who are listening, consult your practitioner. Find somebody like Heather,
Well, reach out to Heather.
or reach out to Heather.
You're available, right, Heather?
I'm available, yeah.
And you know, do a consult. Find out what your body needs and what you're trying right now that's actually hindering your progress. We found out that for Dawn, we were doing a lot of things that should have worked, and we weren't seeing the progress that we should have seen.
Nobody taught us, we've been learning, but none of the practitioners that I went to really shared as much information as you got tonight from Heather.
Yes.
So we were gonna have to end the call, and Heather, we'd like to have you come back. Seems like you are available maybe once a month.
Yeah, I'm happy to come back. I enjoy sharing, and sometimes having like a reason to share is more motivating, you know, than me just writing a talk and I'm not sure where I'm going to use it. So if you guys have an area of interest, it's fun to write a talk for that area of interest, and I can then repurpose it. So
Cool.
yeah, I will tell you.
And we will post this on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, and Heather will get to post it on her channels as well. So
we want to remind y'all to like and subscribe with Toxicity Zone, like and subscribe with Heather's videos as well. And please visit our website. They can give our website information below.
yes, our website information will be below in the notes. And thank you all for showing up. And for those who are catching this on the replay, thank you for listening. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.